What's up, y'all? Hazeblade here, and today's video I'll be speedrunning my review of the Shadows of Rose DLC included with the Winters' expansion and Resident Evil Village Gold Edition. This is a spoiler-free review, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Shadows of Rose is a delightful extension of the Resident Evil Village story. Rosemary Winters has grown to resent her powers after spending her childhood being chastised by her peers. Seeking a way to free herself from the grasp of the mold, she enters the consciousness of the megamycete in search of a crystal to purify her body. During her journey, she comes across an entity known as Michael who provides her with advice and the occasional item or two to help her along. Shadows of Rose features an over-the-shoulder third-person perspective similar to RE2 and 3 Remake, but the movement scheme is the same as Village's base game, and the result is a subpar, choppy mess providing little to no mobility and janky animations when trying to avoid enemies. I thought the movement was fine in the base game with the first-person perspective, but unfortunately the lack of adjustment to the movement scheme detracts from the overall third-person experience in both the DLC and the third-person mode included in the Winters' expansion. Combat has some improvements upon the base game, most notably being able to use Rose's powers in addition to a small arsenal of weapons to dispatch enemies, but unfortunately the enemy variety itself is practically non-existent. Precision shooting is not nearly as satisfying in the DLC as it is in the base game, and it seems that critical and location damage has been removed almost entirely. The issues with movement, as mentioned earlier, also inhibits a lot of strategic decision-making, which further takes away from the overall enjoyment of the combat system as a whole. What saves this experience is that throughout the campaign we get to see Rose discover the true potential of her powers, which leads to some interesting combat mechanics as the story progresses. The environment of Shadows of Rose is more of the same, where most of the game is spent in iconic areas of the village such as the castle, but there are many changes to bring new life into places already seen in the base game. With new enemies, puzzles, and a different character and perspective, these areas still feel fresh and exciting while retaining their iconic look and feel. There are also additions to some areas providing players the opportunity to explore more of the village that was not seen in Ethan's story. Puzzles are a notable part of most Resident Evil games, and there are a decent amount in the DLC, and as this is a spoiler-free review, I'll just say that I felt there were an appropriate amount of them throughout the campaign, that I enjoyed some of them, others not so much, and I'll leave it at that. Similar to puzzles, resource management is also a core component of RE gameplay, and as the difficulty goes up, so too does the importance of conserving ammunition, health, and other important items. Shadows of Rose stays true to this formula, and while there's no Village of Shadows difficulty in the DLC, hardcore should provide a sufficient challenge for most players looking to enjoy the system to the fullest. Crafting makes a return, as do a handful of the weapons from the main campaign, and Rose's powers also have a degree of resource management built in as well, but the DLC does scale this back quite a bit, opting for a more linear experience with an emphasis on cinematics and storytelling. Speaking of storytelling, let's talk about the story, without spoilers. Rose's story is understandable. Growing up different than everyone else, she's been subjected to maltreatment from the kids she grew up with, which serves as the premise for this DLC. The campaign does a great job of getting players to connect with Rose and empathize with her desire to be free of the megamycete so she can be normal like the kids she grew up with. Unfortunately, there are many alludes to subplots that we don't get to see unfold in the confines of the campaign, but they are interesting nonetheless. It's clear that Capcom wants to explore more world building through their games, and I hope they're able to do this in a more polished way in future installments. The major story elements in this campaign are highly compelling and part of what makes the DLC so enjoyable. Regarding the cast of the DLC, their performance was excellent. The only issue that I had was it was incredibly obvious, as it was in RE Village, that some people didn't go into the studio to mocap their character. This broke the immersion at times, but I was so impressed with the storytelling itself during cutscenes that this is really more of a nitpick, but Capcom should definitely mocap all their characters they show up close on screen. As for the audio, Shadows of Rose follows in the footsteps of their previous RE Engine installments, opting for high-quality ambient background music most of the time and changing the pace during jump scares, cutscenes, and combat. The soundtrack fits incredibly well with the environment and continues to raise the bar in gaming audio. Overall, in the gameplay department, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 considering the issues with movement and stripped-down combat systems with consideration to the environment, resource management, puzzles, and overall control scheme. As for the story, I'm giving that a 9 out of 10 considering the incomplete subplots and the lack of mocap on some characters, both of which I consider to be a minor issue. For the audio, I'm giving that a 10 out of 10 because it was awesome. That brings our overall total to an 8.7 out of 10, being that it was an experience I really enjoyed and an overall solid product included in a DLC. If you enjoyed Resident Evil Village, I highly recommend you check out Shadows of Rose, included in the Winters' expansion and the Resident Evil Village Gold Edition. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out my other videos on this channel, as well as the Hazeblade VODs channel where I upload unedited footage from my Twitch stream. You can find my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/Hazeblade, and I also post on Twitter and Instagram at HazebladeTV. That's all for now. See you next time.